All right, hey guys, Josh Beecraft here, another 2mm shift. Today we are going to talk about something very interesting. It's going to up your communication game in a big way if you just apply this one thing. And I don't want to oversell that, but it really is that kind of impact. If you just learn how to do this one thing, you can change the way you communicate with people to a much more positive end. Even if it's not negative now, it'll still be much more positive by using this one thing. And I think the sort of new term for it, the new thinking term on it, is tactical empathy. It's using empathy in a way that creates better situations for communications. Now, I'm going to explain it, right? I don't want you to be lost in confusion on this, but I want to just talk about one sort of the ethics of this, because this is something, if you choose to use it for evil, you probably could, right? And that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm not going to condone that. I'm not going to empower you that way. Instead, I'm going to hope that if you're watching this and you decide to learn this and use it, that you're going to use it for all the good in the world and create higher quality communications because of it. And I think you'll see why I said that once we get into the lesson here. So the first thing that I want to kind of talk about is just empathy in general. Empathy is one of those things that, there's a few kind of magic tricks, if you will, in human emotions and psychology. And empathy might be one of those, right? I don't know for sure that it's one of those, but it is quite a powerful thing. And here's what empathy is as I see it, right? If you've had an experience and you feel a certain way about it, I might say something as simple as, I'm really sorry you're going through that. I'm empathizing with your struggle, with your pain, with your frustration, with what you're going through. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not trying to one-up it. I'm not trying to inform it. I'm not trying to define it in any particular way, other than to say, hey, I feel for you. I'm with you. I'm here. And there's a psychology to that that's really beautiful, that basically suggests that you're you have to think about this like lizard brain, right? You're non-threatening, you're non-combative, right? And you're in the space and you're welcoming the fact that they're struggling and not judging them for them, not looking down on it, not trying to make it wrong. That's a thing. That's one of the things there's very commonly. This is one of the main differences between men and women in a general sense, right? Men always try to fix things. Women just empathize and let it be okay that you struggle, right? And within certain situations, I'm not making a blatant statement like that's always true, but like think about it from your relationship with your significant other, right? Many times if a woman is dealing with something that's, challenging, she probably more often than not will just want somebody to hear that she's struggling. That's it. Just sit and listen. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to one-up it or solve the problem or any of that. Just like, hear me, be with me. Make it a situation where it's okay for me to be where I'm at, right? There's a certain sense of safety to that, even though it's not necessarily positive in solving problems. Men are like, well, why have the problem if we can solve it, right? So they come in and go, oh, well, let's just do this, 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 and this. And women are like, I was just trying to feel safe, and now I feel threatened by all of the stuff I have to do to solve this, right? Like there's a different level of intensity, and men are used to that kind of stress. That stress of solving problems gets men going, right? I'm speaking very general, but I want you to understand what I mean by empathy when we're talking about it here. So how does this play out in normal communications, right? We're talking about empathizing with somebody who's going through struggles, but what about just like a normal conversation, right? It comes down to being able to listen properly and understand a couple of key techniques. And this is where we'll start to get into the idea of tactical empathy, which I think Chris Voss really championed. And if you guys have never read the book, Never Split the Difference, that is a book that's a must read. It's on my top 5 list of all time, probably. It's a fantastic book on human communication, and it's dead simple. Like, the book is really great to read, but you could probably learn it all in 10 minutes and then go practice, right? It's really simple stuff. And this is one of the things, right? Empathy's obviously been around forever, but using empathy this way is a different kind of monster. So imagine a regular conversation where somebody is buying something from you, right? Like maybe a sales conversation. Like, hey, I really would love to get this new car, but I'm just afraid that the payments are going to be too much for you. You can either go into the man mode of like, well, let me try to solve that for you, blah, blah, blah. Or you can try this tactical empathy approach, which in my mind is kind of the bridge between what I just characterized as, in generalities, male and female approaches to these problems. A tactical empathy thing might sound more like this. Customer says, I'm really afraid like the payments might be a little too much for me to handle. Say, the payments too much to handle? Well, yeah, because, we had some things happen before and we've been a little tighter than normal. And I'm afraid if I take something like this on, I'm going to get myself in a situation where I'm stressed out all the time and it's causing me a lot of problems and creating problems maybe in my marriage. And I just don't know what to expect. There's some uncertainty in the financial future. Oh, I could see where that would cause you to kind of feel hesitant about this, for sure. Uncertainty in the financial future? Now, I'm going to explain what I'm doing here in a second, but I want you to see the simplicity of the tactic, right? Yeah, we've got some uncertainty in financial future because, graduation's coming up for the kids and there's some birthday parties and there's just some other stuff that just has me really financially worried. So yeah, I can understand how that would definitely make you feel uncertain or uneasy. Would it be okay if I took a look at the numbers and a couple of things to see if we could still come up with a way to make this deal work and solve some of that anxiety? Yeah, let's look at that, right? Now, of course, that's the obvious move. Of course, it's like, oh, well, let me just look at the stuff. Here's the difference. Tactical empathy causes two things, and I'll break down the two sort of techniques that I did there. The first thing that it causes is it causes a person to feel understood and heard in the way, because they are, right? Not just like causes it magically and like you don't have to really listen. You do, but it shows them that you're actually listening, right? Which causes them to feel heard and part of the conversation and like they matter and that it's safe to matter. It's safe to have those concerns with you. Remember, this is all reptilian brain stuff. Safety is a big, big component of reptilian brain, right? So when you're able to create a situation where somebody's safe in that way, they'll reveal more information to you, more than you ever wanted, right? You actually get too much information a lot of times. And the way that you do that, technique number one, is you repeat the last few words they said with an inquisitive tone. So when she said, yeah, I've got a lot of uncertainty around the future, I said, uncertainty around the future? That inquisitive tone, it says, one, that you are listening because you just redid those last three words, and then that uncertain tone evokes them to provide more information without actually asking for it. It's a safe way of communicating that. Instead of saying, hey, why don't you tell me why you're feeling so uncertain, which might be none of your business. When you say it that way, it gives them a chance to feel heard and acknowledge that maybe there's more information for them to say. And they'll very often reveal more information. Now you have graduation coming up and you have these other things happening that in the short term are a problem for them. Right? So as a car salesman, the solution might be, what if I can work a program where you don't make a payment for 90 days? Oh, now we have information to solve the short-term problem, where if I just would have went into problem solving right away, maybe I still would have gotten there, but the person wouldn't have felt as heard. They would have felt like you were just trying to get the deal closed, right? Big, big difference. And it might not sound like it. Like if you're an actual car salesman, you may be like, yeah, whatever, fine. Okay, fine. Like I'm not selling cars all day, every day. But as an example, this is a perfect example, right? The next one that I did is I just simply labeled the emotion that they're feeling, right? When they talk about that uncertainty or they're just a little bit worried, I could see where that could create some anxiety. I can see where that might cause frustration. I can certainly see why that would leave you feeling uncertain. Right? And all that's doing is giving a word to anchor on for what they're feeling so it can almost live in the real conversation, right? Like it almost has a place now. It's almost a character in the movie, if you will. And the reason you do that is because then it can actually be dealt with. It's actually on the table to deal with. It's actually there to almost, for lack of a better way to characterize this, it's almost there to converse with, right? As it lives inside of that person's consciousness. So when you do tactical empathy this way, the technique is really it's really just a couple things. It's repeat the last 3 words they said inquisitively, or label the emotion that they're feeling and give it permission to live. Hey, I could see I could see how that'd be really frustrating for you. That's it, right? Like imagine your kid comes home from school and they had a really bad day. They got a bad grade on their test. They didn't make the team, whatever. And they're like, oh, I'm so done with life. And I just hate this. And Sally said this to me. And what do I do? Like your options are run away, right? Probably a good one if you're a father and that's your daughter, right? But your other option is to try to solve the problem. Like, oh, let me go talk to Sally and let's take a look at, studying you up for that test a little better and we'll make it so you make the team next time, right? Like they're not in a space to hear any of that. The other option is tactical empathy. Man, I'm sorry. I can see how that'd be really upsetting and make for a rough day. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm just going to blah, blah, blah. Like they're just going to say more stuff and that's okay. And you go, yeah, I totally get it. And there's going to be a point where you're using tactical empathy to let them get it all out. And then there's a point where you can introduce a solution. Hey, would it be okay if I set up a schedule with you where we could look at your test and your scores and we could just study together 20 minutes at a time? Like you can come up with a thing because now all of that stuff is out of the way. And that's what tactical empathy really does, is it moves all of the emotional garbage out of the way so the conversation can happen for real. I think that's pretty cool. That's really it. The 2 techniques. Repeat the last 3 words they said and label the emotion outright and validate it. It's okay to have it. Create a sense of safety with these 2 types of language. I promise you, you will be a better communicator overnight if you just start doing these things, and people will tell you more about themselves than you ever could have asked for, and you'll have information to be able to serve them with, right? And that's a good thing. So that's it. Tactical empathy. Read the book, Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss goes way into it, but there's plenty of other books and text out there on the idea of empathy and ways to apply it. So study it as a topic because it's not that complex, but it's that important, right? And if we could all just do that one thing, everything would be a lot easier, particularly on social media, right? It's hard to do empathy on social media in text form, but that's a good practice ground for you to practice those skills. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. I appreciate you. See you on the next 2mm shift.